You know the feeling, right? You save up your in-game currency for months, painstakingly hoarding every last drop, only to finally pull and boom, you lose a 50-50, you get a random standard unit instead of the character you actually wanted. It is literally the most frustrating thing in gacha gaming. Well, today we're looking at a game that is completely tossing that entire coin flip mechanic right out the window. Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we are breaking down a wildly ambitious title called Neverness to Everness. This is a supernatural, urban, open-world RPG developed by Hethereau Studio, the same team behind Tower of Fantasy. It's published by Perfect World Games, it's free to play, and it is doing things very differently. We're going to unpack exactly how these mechanics work, piece by piece, so you can see why this is a real game changer for the industry. And look, this isn't just pre-release hype. Since its global launch back on April 29th, 2026, Neverness to Everness, or NTE for short, because we'll be saying that a lot, has already racked up over 1 million downloads. Plus, it's holding incredibly steady with a solid 4 out of 5-star rating on the Google Play Store. So players are absolutely taking notice, and we are here to figure out why. So here is our roadmap for today's explainer. First, a new kind of gacha. Second, welcome to Hethereau. Third, mastering the Esper Cycle. Fourth, the city tycoon and life sim features. And finally, number 5, specs and our final verdict. Part 1. A new kind of gacha. Fixing the 50-50 frustration. Now, what's really interesting about how NTE handles monetization is that they've replaced those standard, punishing blind polls with the Monopoly-style board progression. They call it Scarborough Fair, or just the Fair. You'll literally roll dice and move a little piece across a board. Every single tile you land on gives you a visible reward. We're talking materials, skins, sometimes even characters. But here's the absolute kicker, the thing that changes everything. It completely removes the 50-50 system. When you hit pity, that threshold where the game guarantees a top-tier drop, you get the featured limited S-class character. No coin flip, no heartbreak, you just get them. Just look at this number for a second, 19.59%. Okay, so the base S-rank drop rate is roughly 1%, which is pretty standard. But once you reach 70 polls, which is the soft pity mark, where your odds usually just bump up a bit, the board in NTE fundamentally changes. Suddenly, every 5 to 6 tiles physically transforms into an S-rank tile. That skyrockets your chances of pulling the character to nearly 20%. And hey, if your luck is just absolutely terrible and you miss all of those, the hard pity system kicks in at 90 polls to completely guarantee the character. It literally turns a blind gamble into a visible, exciting progression path. Oh, and it gets better. The game thoughtfully separates characters and weapons into entirely different systems. You use fabricated or solid dice for the character board and a totally different currency called tri-keys for weapons, which they call arcs in-game. This means you never, ever have to agonize over whether to pull for that awesome new hero or their signature gear. You can just do both. Plus, your pity carries over to new banners. Like I said, it's a system that actually rewards thoughtful planning instead of just blind luck. All right, moving on to part 2. Welcome to Hethereau, an urban playground like no other. So where exactly are we using all these characters? Welcome to Hethereau. It's this sprawling, neon-lit, completely explorable Unreal Engine 5 city. And the vibe is crazy. Ordinary people are just living their lives right alongside these bizarre, supernatural anomalies. Like, you'll literally run into a TV-headed otter running a local antique shop, or maybe an octopus casually selling takoyaki on the street corner. It is incredibly weird, but in the absolute best way possible. You step into the shoes of an unlicensed anomaly hunter working out of a run-down little antique shop called Ibon, and you just get to navigate this incredibly dynamic urban landscape. But what you can actually do in the city is what blows my mind. You aren't just jogging down static streets. The game actively wants you to explore vertically, letting you scale massive buildings like Spider-Man, all managed by a stamina bar. And the driving? Guys, the driving is not just some cheap gimmick. It has actual mechanics. The handling realistically changes based on the weather, there's AI traffic, and the car modding is ridiculously deep. You can roll into a garage and tweak your paint, slap on decals, adjust the suspension, upgrade the engine. We are talking Need for Speed levels of car customization right inside an anime gacha game. You can even go swimming, fishing, or just chill out and play some mahjong. Part 3. Mastering the Esper Cycle. Elemental synergy, and skill-based combat. Let's transition over to the combat and see how this all builds together. At the core of the fighting system, you have 6 elemental Esper types. You've got Lachana representing order, Cosmos for light, Anima for life, Incantation for force, Chaos for dark, and finally Psyche representing mind. Every single character belongs to one of these types. And this brilliantly illustrates that combat isn't just about throwing raw numbers at a boss. It's a theory crafter's absolute dream. You have to combine these elements, paying close attention to how they sit next to each other on the Esper wheel to trigger these massive, team-wide passive buffs and elemental synergies. Because of that, the core combat loop requires real, actual precision. It goes like this. You start by filling up your Esper meter using normal attacks, skills, or pulling off perfectly timed parries. Once that meter is full, you swap to a character with a glowing portrait, unleashing their ability. Doing this triggers devastating duo or even triple cycle elemental reactions. For example, if you mix Cosmos and Anima, you trigger a reaction called Blossom, which actually spawns an AoE turret right on the field. And if you manage to pull off a triple cycle, the damage output is just insane. Throw in dodge counters and a stagger system, and you've got a deeply action-oriented game. You absolutely cannot just button mash your way through the boss fights here. Part 4. City Tycoon and Life Sim. Running your own business. Now, when your fingers need a break from all that high-octane parrying and dodging, the game pivots into this surprisingly deep, incredibly cozy simulation mode. This is the City Tycoon system, and believe it or not, it's central to your account progression. You can manage a cafe, rent out apartment buildings, run a bustling arcade, or just decorate your own massive mansion. And what's super cool is that your combat characters have specific life skills too, so bringing a certain character along might give you a massive edge in a street race, or drastically boost how much income your coffee shop is generating. It even features dating sim mechanics that go way deeper than almost any other 3D gacha title out there right now. So the crucial point here is how they keep you from burning out on all this content. The developers brilliantly implemented dual stamina systems. Listen to this. Character pixels refresh daily. You use those for your typical combat grinding, resource gathering, and leveling up your characters. But then, you have City Tycoon stamina, which resets weekly and is dedicated solely to your business and lifestyle stuff. This intelligently walls off the daily combat grind from the much more relaxed weekly life sim fun. You literally never have to stress about choosing one over the other. And how does all this tie into your long-term goals? Well, that brings us to cartridges. These are your main endgame progression items. You farm them by spending those daily character pixels in domains called anomaly zones. Basically, you're rolling for perfect attribute stats to totally maximize your character's kit. And the whole shebang, from the combat zones to running your cafe, feeds directly into your overall hunter level. That guarantees you always have a really balanced, meaningful path forward as you unlock harder and harder challenges. Part 5. Specs and Final Verdict. Can you actually run it? Okay, we need to talk about the technical realities here. Because NTA is built on Unreal Engine 5, with fully dynamic lighting and massive environments, this cross-platform game demands a seriously beefy machine. For PC, the recommended specs call for an i7 or a Ryzen 5 processor paired with an RTX 4060 plus a 60GB SSD. And keep in mind, you need another 60 gigs just temporarily to extract the files. Mobile users, you're looking at needing a Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 or an iPhone 14 Pro at minimum. And PS5 players, you'll need to carve out a massive 70 gigabytes of storage space. So yeah, I hope you aren't too attached to some of those older games sitting in your library. The seamless cross-progression is a fantastic feature for sure, but you absolutely need the hardware to back it up. Mastering the Neverness to Everness gacha system turns luck into smart strategy. That quote right there perfectly captures the overarching theme of our explainer today. NTE is just this wildly ambitious blend of genres. Now, to be totally fair, we should acknowledge that some reviewers feel the combat, while incredibly stylish, can sometimes feel a bit lackluster compared to hardcore character action games. And sure, no single system here completely outshines a dedicated single-genre game, but the whole package together, it truly respects your time and your wallet. Between having absolutely no 50-50, pity that carries over, entirely separate banners, and that super generous Monopoly-style pulling system, it's a game that genuinely rewards consistent play and smart planning. So, after seeing how the Scarborough Fair actually guarantees your characters, after exploring the crazy, vertical, neon-lit streets of Hethereau, and learning how to perfectly balance elemental Esper combat with, well, running your own local cafe, we want to leave you with this final thought today. Are you ready to clear out some serious hard drive space, dive headfirst into the anomalies, and become an appraiser?